And with that, we're live. So not much different than pre-show, and you've done a number of podcasts, Ryan, but thanks for jumping on the Around the Coin podcast today. You're now working as Chief Product Officer at Thryv. Maybe let's just kick it off. What is Thryv doing in the world?
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me. Thryv is an end-to-end client experience platform built specifically for growing small businesses. So we provide a one-stop shop for everything a small business owner needs to deliver an excellent customer experience for their customers.
And specifically, say I'm a small donut shop in a rural town, and I call up Thryv or I sign up on the website. What am I getting typically? I know there could be multiple offers, but what would be an example of something that I could get from Thryv?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, we're a centralized CRM, and then everything that kind of branches off on that, a central place to communicate with customers, share documents, manage a schedule. Obviously, the donut shop probably isn't sending invoices or estimates, but maybe if they do catering, they do.
Yeah.
And most importantly, we connect our software with their online presence. So where a lot of other softwares kind of stop once you have the record in your CRM, we take it a step further upstream. So we build professional websites and integrate them into the CRM. We manage your Google My Business presence. We do all of those things on how you get found because we think those are crucial elements to connect to a small business's kind of command center.
Mm. And Thryv is a significant company. I saw most recently reported in last year, October 2020, 1.4 billion in revenue, which 35 million in profit with 40,000 SaaS clients. Does that sound still about right? I'm sure.
Yeah, and some of those numbers are a little bigger now. We have more SaaS customers now. We're growing pretty well year over year on our SaaS business. But yeah, we're well over $1 billion. We're a publicly traded software company, and we support all in across all of our product sets, well over 300,000 small businesses. Earlier this year, we bought a company in Australia, so now we have a little bit more of a global reach, we're a pretty substantial company.
And what's your attraction? You joined the company. Oftentimes, we'll interview founders of companies, so I'm curious from your perspective. When you joined the company, I understand they were struggling, and they had a bunch of assets which were the relationships with small businesses. They rebranded. Was that while you were there? Walk me through a little bit of that period. I'm curious.
Yeah, so obviously, the company itself has taken on many forms and fashions well over 100 years. There's really strong roots in helping small businesses, and that's the asset that the company had. They had these relationships. We have an excellent kind of national sales force and all of those apparatuses that are already installed. And the problem the company was solving had become outdated and had not evolved or kept up with the marketplace. And so the new management team came in really seeking to solve a new problem, and that is cloud adoption and the ability to leverage technology at an SMB level. Many enterprises adopt cloud. A lot of companies immediately go up market and focus on the enterprise customers, big contracts, multi-year deals. But the SMBs don't have the economies of scale individually to kind of adopt these platforms. They don't have the tech wherewithal. So you need a simpler plug and play, kind of automated solution to go solve it. And, we sought out to solve that problem. We saw a lot of point solutions. I call it the aspirin problem, right? My elbow hurts, I take aspirin. So if I need payments, I go maybe find Square or someone else. I want to send email marketing. Okay, I have MailChimp, but you keep doing that after a period of time and you've got multiple customer lists, you have a lot of technology debt, nothing really kind of works the way you want it to. And so we sought out to kind of solve that problem, make it just really easy for small businesses to compete with bigger brands who really can leverage the technology effortlessly.
Yeah, it's a challenging problem. I found I started one company in the small business space. We made web-based point of sale software prior to Square, so it was 2013 and 14, and we ended up selling the company, but we had to focus on a very specific niche. We were small, medium-sized apparel stores, and it was difficult to build software for a small business and then sell it to another small business that's in a separate, like a donut shop and a bike store and an apparel store, have dramatically different problems. I mean, they're related for sure, but the way they keep inventory, the way they do invoicing to suppliers and distributors and customers, all of it varied significantly, and it was challenging, much so. Square even now focuses a lot on like coffee shops and and front end small bakeries and that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm curious how you, from a product perspective, think about building something for so many different types of businesses.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, so first and foremost, we think about it, our focus is service-based businesses. So think of pre-sale activity. There's an experience that happens. It's usually not just a transactional kind of inventory swipe and go kind of experience. And then there's post-sale follow-up, right? So there's this kind of journey that has to happen. Different businesses, it can be quick, it could be long, there's obviously different cycles, but we do focus on that. We do think, by and large, if a POS system is your primary technology device, you're probably not our customer, at least not right now. We focus really on services. So that helps us at least stay focused in that part of the market. And then what we really did is we did it with intention. We built, to solve this problem, we built a verticalization kind of platform that sits over top of the entire solution. And so what we know about small businesses is that, no two plumbers are even alike or no two HVACs, but they do start with a kind of a verticalized preset configuration that they can still tweak for the people who want to, go into settings and play around, but they don't have to. And we think that was the hurdle that we need to overcome, that, it's a lot easier to edit than it is to create. And so we start with that in mind, and we've done a lot of research leveraging our relationships with, hundreds of thousands of small businesses to really build those out so that when they log in, it feels purpose-built for them, and they can tweak as much as they want to customize how they want to act or how they want to get paid or how they want to communicate, but at least it's not, they're not starting from zero.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I find the Thryv story really fascinating because I know Thryv before they were Thryv. They were a company, Dex1, which they were originally selling papers, yellow papers, like what would you call it? Phone books, right?
Books.
Yeah, and you can look them up. And that was a pretty successful business in its time. They grew to be a significant company. That phone book business kind of expired. You don't have to look up a number in a phone book if you have access to the internet and access to a mobile phone. I don't know if you would call it a pivot at that point, but they added on the services arm of the business at Dex1, and they would help Google resell their products. So small businesses want to advertise and get new customers. So tell me if any of this is off, but I understand Dex1's primary business to have been, let's partner with these small businesses and manage some ad revenue or ad spend that they want to spend on customer marketing through Google. And we'll drive, and it could be Yelp or it could be Bing or other places too, but they would effectively manage this spend and have that relationship. Google at the time were they paying Dex1 to have, or how did the mechanics work, and why did it need to change?
Yeah, so if we step back for a minute, we can say, listen, the company for its tenure sold leads, right? And for 100 years, the way small businesses got leads was the phone book, and still to this day, we're not kidding ourselves. The phone book is declining, but it's declining at a very predictable rate, and it is still very much in use by core demographics. I mean, if you haven't adopted a smartphone by now, you're probably not going to, right? And so there is a predictable audience there, and for those people, it delivers a tremendous amount of value still to this day for those audiences.
Do you know what the numbers are, out of curiosity? How many people still use a phone book weekly?
I mean, there are tens of millions of references a year of people who are using that product, and the people who are homeowners. They have money, right? They're probably later on in life, right? The 20-year-old millennial probably not using the phone book, right? But for specific verticals, and along with a decline in usage, rates have normalized, and as people pull out of that particular product, there's less competition, right? So all of that kind of factors in. But if we step back, that's what the company did, sold leads. And then as leads kind of moved into more digital acquisition, you needed a website. Every small business needed a website. It wasn't good enough to just be in the phone book anymore. You needed a website. So the business moved into that direction. Okay, well, now you need people to come to the website. And there's this new thing out there called a search engine. So how do we help people navigate that? But as that market, grew, early on, Google needed resellers. They needed value-added partners, and they gave you kickbacks and incentives and all kinds of things to be able to do that, and it was very lucrative. But as Google became Google, they need those partners less and less, right? That Google is going to do just fine with it without partners. And so it's really important for us to kind of evolve our business and see, what is the problem we're trying to solve. And said a different way, as all that marketing and lead generation kind of picked up, and there's now not just the phone book, there's many sources, whether it be Home Advisor or Nextdoor or Yelp or Bing or Google. How does a small business owner know if it's working, knows what's working and knows what's not working? And do they know what return on ad spend is? Do they know what the lifetime value of that lead is? We know that there's conversion rates, but marketing is messy, right? There's what percentage, and it's usually a majority of the leads that you buy in advertising don't buy from you. So you have a choice: throw them on the floor and walk away, and next month just buy more. Or can you put them in a system? Can you put them in a CRM? Can you remarket to them? Can you target them and convert them into future? That takes something that was an expense, and at least it's an asset, right? It's an asset in my database in some way. And as we went through our journey, we realized that these were some basic questions that a majority of small businesses couldn't answer because they were pen and pencil, right? Making my phone ring. But if you stop paying, the phone stops ringing, right? There's no asset, there's no leftover residual, and there's a constant struggle on, well, what's worth what, and how much should I spend on a lead, and what channel works, and SMBs really didn't have access to that. So that's the problem, and kind of how we approached it and how we got to where we are today. But it's a pretty interesting evolution when you look at it that way.
Yeah. And so you come into this situation. Previously, you'd been at a few different companies, Apple, one of them. You had your own startup through AOL at Patch, which I have a couple of friends who used to work there, which is an interesting business kind of in the same similar sort of space. I think Patch was making local publications. They were trying to move the physical newspaper to online. So all these different cities have their own local publication for local news. I don't think that worked out. Is that still going? Do you know, Patch?
It is still going. It's nowhere near. I think it's been bought and sold a couple times, and I think AOL got out of it. But really, it was a different approach to what Nextdoor has really, demonstrated. A little, obviously much more successfully. But much like Nextdoor, the core revenue model was still very much the local small business owners, and really trying to bring homeowners and local community together in kind of a micro site. So whether it be news or events or angles, and then really being able to have products and services that connect the small business owner to those communities. That was the goal. Obviously, the strategy and the execution, didn't exactly work out to the level. And Nextdoor, at least right now, is seen in, kind of taken away with it there.
Yeah, it's wild how Nextdoor is so. I almost think Nextdoor is the most popular social media app that people don't talk about. At least, certainly in your circle more so because you're in the world. But personally, it doesn't come up in conversations. People don't. It's not often mentioned on the news. It's such a unique business. I feel it's incredibly popular, right? But it doesn't have the same. It has to be local. So there's some. I don't know. What do you have a take on?
Yeah, I think. Listen, they put some gates up. They put gates up. You got to kind of be in the neighborhood, right? But those are kind of things that has made it special. And so because of that, it's not like you can just kind of peer in and see what's happening in this neighborhood, right? And so it's not as open platform as obviously the other social networks are. And I think now they're really just starting to hit their stride in terms of monetization and tools and resources. We integrate with them inside the platform. So again, small businesses have a great Nextdoor presence if they buy Thryv, and because we see the value. We see the value in this ecosystem, and there's going to be a lot of audiences. Google My Business has an audience. Nextdoor has an audience. Everyone has audiences. But that kind of exacerbates the problem for the small businesses, right? Because, well, now, I'm just a plumber. I'm just an HVAC. I'm just a dog groomer, and I got to worry about my Google My Business listing and my Yelp profile, and I got this Nextdoor thing that just popped up, and I've got to. When do I have time to do what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And the answer is it just got to be simpler for them.
So you come into this situation, and what do you do? Like, what's day one? How do you sort of think about tactically making order out of the chaos? Certainly when a large company pivots or declares bankruptcy and then revives itself, everything changes. I'm sure every person in the company is questioning whether they stay there, what the future looks like. I read this great book. You must have heard of it, called Elephants Can Dance.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it, but
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
it's really good. It talked about the transition that IBM made from product businesses to services businesses, service business, and it walked through in detail what he did when he came in day one. He's like, okay, all the department managers, there's 12 of them. He's like, you guys have 3 days, give me a detailed report, and we're going to present it in front of the meeting. And I liked how detailed it was and how he went about this process, because for most people, it's so vague. It's like, oh, these people came in and they redid everything, and now the company's doing fine. But as you know, the details matter. And I'm curious, what did you learn? What would you have done different? What was it like?
Yeah. So, I think first of all, you take stock of what you have. You take stock of what's working, and you understand that, the system, the company, the people, the customers, there's a tolerance of acceptable change, right? At some point, you're just lighting the place on fire and hoping it all works pretty well. And there's some examples of that. Ron Johnson, J.C. Penney is a great example where probably great vision, great execution, but too far, too fast, didn't end up working out well for that particular, kind of overhaul. But I think, you take stock of what you have. And, at the time, we had a lot of website clients. Okay, so we have a lot of website clients, but the websites are really just billboards. And we know that the world's moving towards engagement and adoption. So what if we start kind of wedging in from there? That's kind of an asset. That's a strength. We do that pretty well. Customers kind of know us for that. And we start, kind of inching through that. And as we started building a product, we got an MVP product in market in the first couple of months. Now, you can easily look. We thought it was the bee's knees back then, right? Of course. You look back at it now and you're, oh my God, what did we do? But it got us in market, and we got a lot of great feedback about what should it do, what shouldn't it do. We got some great valuable lessons, of course, because of our relationships. You immediately go out. We have, every sales rep has 4 or 5 clients they can kind of talk to immediately and get honest feedback in the market, invaluable. And then really, we spent a lot of time focusing on our client touch points beginning to end, because it wasn't just products and strategy. It was how we presented ourselves and how we helped our clients, and really making sure, that we were measuring the right things, and that our net promoter score, how clients felt about doing business with us, morphed over time. And, every month and every quarter, the executive team continually looks at it and challenges our assumptions, right? We used to have a really long minimum contract. Now we have a completely acceptable kind of 6-month term, because we think that's fair, right? You're going to buy our platform. We're going to onboard you and support you. If it doesn't work out in 6 months, we can part as friends. 12 months feels like, this is a one-sided relationship and I'm locking you in. 1 month feels like you're not giving us a good enough shot, right? So we find these little happy medium balances to kind of be able to march forward, and it's just chopping wood. Every month, every day, we get better, we get better, we get better. And when we find something that works, we accelerate.
And I'm curious both on the product side and the sales side. Maybe we'll go, let's go product first. So you come in and there's little to no software built at this point. Did you have an existing, are you a developer yourself? Do you dive in and choose the technical languages and tech stacks to use? Or how did you go from nothing to spinning up the product?
Yeah, I'm a database guy, so I like data. I mean, that's kind of I'm not a coder, but I'm definitely a data. And at the end of the day, this is a big, giant data exercise, right, with a UI in front of it. All software is data. So that definitely helped. And to be candid, early on, we relied heavily on some integrations and kind of third-party suites, and to kind of cobble an MVP together to figure out what we know and we don't know. That enabled us, we leverage our economy of scale. We can get to market pretty quickly and figure out, where we want to go. And from there, we just kept evolving, right? We figured out, okay, so this is a CRM and a scheduler. We didn't have invoices. We didn't have payments. And we figured out that people are kind of like, oh, I could put my stuff in here, but then I have to leave your platform and go over here and do my money. And as a small business owner, the money is kind of where their focus is. So we weren't mobile when we first launched. That, we learned that very, very quickly. So future versions became mobile adaptive. Then we launched a mobile app. And so really just moving along through the process, getting feedback, monitoring the market, understanding the market, talking to our customers, watching them use it, and then figuring it, how do we chart our path forward?
And did you buy or hire an outside agency at first and then move it to in-house, or how did you guys manage?
Yeah, there were a lot of partnerships. I wouldn't say buy. There were just a lot of contracts and partnerships, kind of integrations, under the hood. Some of it was just white label stuff at the beginning, just to kind of figure out how it works, and that was great. It allowed us to try something, oh, that didn't work, pull it out, throw it away. And we didn't really have technology debt. So it was a really, kind of easy way for us to kind of mold and bend and find kind of our own path and our own strategy.
And nowadays, it's is the engineering team in-house where you're going through sprints, or I'm curious.
No, we have a growing engineering team. We still have kind of some contract engineers like most companies that we work with. And we have a great philosophy of build versus buy, right? We build things, we build UIs, we'll build experiences, but we don't feel the need to reinvent the wheel. Like, I'm not interested in being the 7,000th scheduler that gets built, right? There's plenty of scheduling APIs and tools and stuff that we can plug into. That's not the value. The value is how we connect scheduling with payments and invoices, and how we make sure that that's a seamless experience for people. That's what we think the value is that we unlock. And so we look for those opportunities, and it provides us less technology debt. If, many people use SendGrid for emails. That's great. It's a great example. Most people do it. It's a wonderful platform. If SendGrid, suddenly stops being the bee's knees in a couple of years, no problem. The whole world can kind of switch to someone else if they need to, right? It eliminates your need to be a technology debt. Whereas, some platforms have built themselves to be their own kind of email engine server thing. They've got to maintain that. They've got to keep up with the Joneses, in that world. So we make our bets, and we make them wisely, and we focus on what we differentiate and how we can kind of own the experiences.
Awesome. Make it sound so easy.
That's the goal. I mean, that's what we try to do for SMBs. They don't care about any of this stuff. They just want it to work.
Oh, no, I mean, you make the process of pivoting a billion-dollar company sound easy.
Well, there were some arguments along the way, of course, but it's a great leadership team, a lot of respect and a lot of great skill sets and unique perspectives. And we know as a team, we look at it from a lot of different angles, because it is a complex problem, and it's always a balance, especially early on, too fast, too slow, right? And making sure that that we're keeping up with the customers and we're keeping up with our company.
Yeah. And do you see so the sales team at one point was a couple of thousand people. I don't know if it's bigger or smaller now, but it was a big part of the company, because those salespeople are the relationships with the small businesses. I mean, in many ways, it kind of feels like it could go either way, with whether it's a services whether you think of it as a services business or a tech business. And I've been in so many startups where the founders are debating with whether we're like a payments company or we're a tech company. I'm sure Uber has that internal debate, whether we're a transportation company or we're a software company or a logistics company. And I think to some degree the debates are kind of frivolous, but they are also meaningful in the sense that it gives you an identity and something to fall back on when you don't quite know what decision to make, whether we double down and invest more into building software or we hire these people. Is the business now kind of in these two different buckets of sales and product, distinctly different, and they're each growing respective to each other? Or how do you make it?
We think about sales-led growth and product-led growth, right? So we think, and we're both. The answer is I think we're both, and we have a mix of products and services. And I'll give you an example, right? We can't run a small business for them. We can't send out their invoices. We can't talk to their customers. There are Ruby receptionists out there who do that really well, but that's not our thing. But there's plenty of things that a small business owner doesn't have the time or kind of know how to do. They're not the people who want to build their own website. There's plenty of free tools out there to kind of pick a template and kind of cobble something together if they want to. Our value proposition is we're your design group. We design you the website of your dreams. We make it a reality, and we fully connect it into your software. We don't think SMBs at large, specifically the people we're targeting in that kind of service sector, do that. We optimize your Google My Business. The software and the technology integrates Google My Business. You see it. You can edit it. But a lot of SMBs don't know what they should put there, right? So just because the technology is there that enables them, how do we make sure that they're successful? So that's a service. It's an add-on, right? It's a service that you can get. Businesses get busy. We think all reviews should be responded to, not just 5 stars. And if you're Googling a business and you see all these reviews and someone's completely unresponsive, it tells you a little bit about kind of their response rates. And so we have a review acknowledgement service where we make sure that none of your reviews go unanswered. So The technology enables it. The platform enables it. You can respond if you want to. You can turn it on. You can turn it off. But that's just some examples where we don't think you have to be one or the other. We think specifically to focus and target the SMB segment, you need both.
Yeah.
Service and support along the way, and we really can be that partner for them. And the way we've designed it, we do what they want us to do. They don't want our website, they can bring their own website and put us right on it. They don't want us to respond to reviews, they turn that off, right? So that we have enough flexibility in there. Even our payments product, Thrivepay, we have dispute assistance built in. We think disputes are scary, right? For a majority of small business owners, we deal in high value transactions. Some of these people are charging $5,000, $10,000 transactions for big services they delivered. They've already bought the goods, they've already bought the services, they've already paid the crew, and then someone, flags a dispute, and they're thinking to themselves, what if I lose? Am I going to lose all 5,000 gets held? I can't withdraw it. So we're a friendly voice that, messages them inside the platform, offers to get on the phone, helps them compile the invoice, electronic signature, all the things that we have in our platform to kind of make their case that this was an approved, legitimate sale to help them win. We can't guarantee they're going to win. We know there's a lot of factors out there, but that's a human touch that we think is worthwhile, and we think it's appreciated by our small business owners.
Yeah. And this would be a credit card chargeback in the case of a customer saying, which, man, that's brutal. I feel like that's not going to exist for too much longer. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like we could enter a place where, I don't know, a smart contract on a blockchain, or somehow there's a more predictable way to get paid as a small business. I feel for businesses, because you could just submit a chargeback, complain about it, and the credit card company is largely on your side because the merchant doesn't have another option to accept payments.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of work done. I think there is still a lot of work to do to make sure that the charge itself is valid. But when we're talking about services, right, you can simply say, I agreed to pay, but services weren't rendered, right? Now you're in a dispute on before and after photos and, qualitative, and how are you going to, kind of technology that, right, at scale. So I don't know that it's going to go away. But I do think the systems and the processes to help small businesses solve those problems will continue to get better. And we hope to be, at the forefront in the center leading that charge.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what small businesses look like as things go forward. And in some ways, they have to be one of the slowest moving parts of the economy. People still using phone books. People still, I'm sure half of small businesses at least have a landline. They'll probably be. I wonder what did you watch the Facebook Metaverse presentation?
I watched part of it. Yeah, the Ready Player One, kind of shocked me a little bit, and the Earth didn't turn out so well in that movie, so I get a little worried. But yeah. Yeah. I think it will happen, and I think Facebook's obviously betting a lot on it, and the impact of that is pretty significant. I think at least as significant as the internet was, or at least social media was in the first place. But the immersive nature of it, when the hardware and software get there, is going to be incredibly compelling. You're going to look at the two-dimensional, screen that you have and think, why would I use this? Why would I use the yellow paper today if I have the smartphone? And the same by analogy to the completely immersive metaverse. I wonder what small businesses, at what point does it make sense to think about this stuff from a product perspective? Like, are small businesses going to need, because there'll be, just like there was first you have to create the web page, then you have to create a Yelp listing, then there'll be the next thing. And it seems like that's going to be the next thing. Yeah. Listen, I think there's something there, and I think, there's going to be a market that gets made, an audience. If there's an audience, the audience will get served, right? That's this basic premise. But I will tell you, you see it all around as a country, as we come out of the pandemic, there is a craving for human interaction, right? And so I'm not entirely convinced that we're all going to, put on headsets and sit in our home and kind of just work and interact with each other all day. Right now, I have a couple, Oculus Quests and things for my kids, and I've used it, and it's nothing short of incredible. It's amazing technology by far, but it's a game, and you go in and you go out, and who knows what the future is going to hold, but I do think there's a basic physiological component to touch and real life human interaction. And we'll see. We'll see if it can simulate that. But rest assured, if there's an audience, it'll get served.
Totally. Have you seen on, speaking of futuristic technologies, have you seen small businesses in any significant degree start asking about crypto, accepting different cryptos, Bitcoin or others, or have you guys thought about integrating it in any meaningful way?
Less than half of 1%, at least of our customers.
Really? Less than half of 1%?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think they're interested in crypto personally from an investment perspective, and they're definitely monitoring it. But we haven't had any demand of, any veterinarians I know who say, man, I'd love my customers to be able to pay me in crypto. They're not quite there yet. But, I think that's a lot of like what we see in tech adoption in general, right? Enterprises are quick to adopt certain things, leverage them. But we'll keep monitoring it. And obviously, as demand continues to grow, if that's an area that needs to get filled for the average small business, then we'll go fill it.
Yeah. I don't think we have a big problem of payment in this country. I think alternative currencies may become more popular if the U.S. dollar really hits some serious inflation, because people won't want to move from Bitcoin or other crypto back into the dollar if just even holding it for a few days. And it's funny because we don't really think about this as a reality in the US because the US dollar has been such a dominant global currency for so long. But we work a lot in my other company, Otter Labs. We work a lot with Argentina, and Argentina has brutal inflation. And it's like you earn, whatever your yearly salary is, and by the end of next year, you're down 30%. It's a really super stressful way to live. It makes it really hard to save. It makes it really hard to plan for the future, invest in anything. So I definitely worry about that, the inflationary aspect of the U.S. dollar.
No, and I think you make a great point. Obviously, we have big international ambitions as a company, and I think as you go into other countries, to your point, it may just be, U.S. demand is not quite there yet. But as we go into other countries and we continue to expand, I could see that same small business in Argentina is going to, do I really want, Argentina, is it the peso? I think it's the Argentina peso, I think it is.
Yeah, yep.
Do I really want that, or do I want, to peg it to crypto or something that's a little bit more stable and predictable? And that has a big trickle down effect, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Are there similar companies in other countries? Is there clones or companies that compete directly, or how do you think about expanding?
Yeah, I mean, we compete with companies, and some companies are, obviously a lot of our competitors are based in the U.S., but we think, some I think Zoho was originally out of India, HubSpot's out of the U.S., Infusionsoft's out of the U.S., right? And they have global presence and they have global, experiences. But I think, interestingly, when you look at them, they're catering to kind of two ends of the market, right? You're catering to, kind of really average $10,000, $13,000 a year kind of subscriptions, or $9 and $10 kind of per month kind of players, right? And we're trying to kind of understand that we think a majority of the market needs service, is willing to pay a little bit more to get it, and really have it all packaged and ready to go for them. I kind of equate it to the people who, back in the 90s, did you want to buy a Dell or did you want to build your own computer, right? We think a majority of small business owners live to buy the Dell. They just want it to work, right? They want to go and do their craft. They're not all that interested in building their own computer. So that's our bet. That's where we think we live, and we think there's a huge market there for it.
Yeah. International seems kind of daunting, I would presume, in some sense, because it's everything's different. Like the payment rails are different. The types of relationships that small businesses would have with resellers or just software merchants. Is the playbook now calls? I mean, I imagine if a new business opens up, they're going to get calls from a credit card merchant, a point of sale seller. You guys would certainly call them. I imagine calling is the easiest way to get in touch with people. Banking services. I remember hanging out at my uncle's place. He had a bakery, and it was just phone call after phone call, like all day long. You'd be like people selling them like light bulbs, like just bothering them in the middle of the day.
It's a call. Listen, I think you just tapped on a little bit of a cultural thing. I think as soon as a company starts looking at a startup entrepreneur is like a walking money bag. Your company culture is in trouble. That is probably the most vulnerable state of an entrepreneur. And we know what the success and failure rates of small businesses. And we're a company that's committed to helping them. And so, Thrivepay Freemium, when we launched it earlier this year, was specifically meant to do that. We don't want to be the 900th person before you've made your first dollar trying to get money out of you, startup costs, all those. What we want to do is say, here's a free app. Go make your first dollar in our app. By the way, in the background, it's building your CRM for you. When you want to upgrade, we're here for you. We can totally do that, and we can unlock additional functionality that we have when the time's right for you. But right now, you're a service-oriented business, and our Thrivepay app is really an interesting collection. It gives you the processing functionality of like a Venmo or a Cash App with an open network, right? My customers don't have to have Thrivepay like you do on Cash App or Venmo, but I can create a request, send it to you via email, text, make it really, really effortless to do that. And then they can pay, Apple Wallet, credit card, ACH, bank account, all the ways that you would normally pay, because no one's going to enter the information faster than your smartphone that already has it all stored in it, right? So whether I'm 6 feet away from you, across town, wherever, the app works effortlessly to do that. And we built it very simply purposed for that creation. So we think specifically in that world, that's the right app for that particular segment, and then we're happy to grow with them and be partners with them. And when we're able to, kind of talk about other solutions, or they're ready to consume other solutions, hopefully we're a trusted partner and we're able to have that relationship with them.
Yeah. I that makes sense to me. I want to talk about the last year or so, and I'm curious your take on the market. Certainly with COVID and the restrictions, I'm thinking every service business, every what would you call it, like a bar, restaurant, those are what you call services business, I guess.
The hospitality. I mean,
yeah.
we put those in hospitality, sure.
And I mean, across the board, I imagine they're all suffering, and probably still to some degree. It seems like the way I understand this is, and tell me, add some nuance to this for sure, but I think of it as hospitality, by and large, is down across the board. The contracting and building side, if you're an electrician, if you're plumbing, if you're HVAC, roofing, construction, anything in the like physical building of houses seems to be way up. There seems to be a lot more transactions happening in real estate. More people are moving out of apartments and condos and into houses. People seem to be moving away from the center of cities in particular to more suburbs or even smaller cities. I think that's pretty universal across the board. I would imagine that trend is somewhat slowed as COVID is somewhat slowed.
Yeah, I mean, the best word I thought about this before we met. The word whiplash comes to mind, right? Like if you think about, the last, call it maybe 18 months, do a little bit of a longer horizon. We go from an outbreak to shut everything down in complete panic. How am I going to pay my bills, and how am I going to make payroll? And we saw, we have an excellent Thrive Foundation. We spun up some grants and things like that, because in that moment of panic, people were, having to do certain things and keep people employed. The government wasn't as quick to act during that period, so it was just outright panic. And then you get to, okay, we're going to wear masks and we're going to social distance, and you got to some little equilibrium, but hospitalities and restaurants and stuff are way off and have laid off staff now. We can't keep them, and there's government programs to help them. And then we enter a period where everyone's working from home. So now you either need a bigger house, or I'm going to make my house bigger. I'm going to renovate, right? We became a remote-only company last year. We're not going back. We felt like we wanted to give that certainty to our employees, which has helped us tremendously identify excellent talent, all across the country and even across the world, and bring them to the company. So we think that was absolutely the right mode, but we did it because we had some employees who were sitting at their kitchen tables working, and we felt like they deserved certainty to say, this is here to stay. So naturally, some of them are like, well, now I need an office, or I need a desk, right? And so home services demand is gone way up. Then you go into earlier this year, and the government drops a bomb and says masks are no longer required. And there's a free-for-all. I mean, it's like the summer of love where everyone's like, hallelujah. And now you have supply shortages, and now you have restaurants and bars trying to open, and you don't have staff for them. I mean, what's the wait lines look like? So now you have demand, with no capacity, right? Even in the home services, now you have supply chain shortages, wood shortages, prices of steel went up, right? And so now you have, we went from helping small businesses communicate and stay contactless and operate in a safe environment, and we helped them do that last year. This year, how do you just communicate? Because now there's lead times and all of these things outside of your control, and you have all these customers kind of depending on you. So how do you kind of communicate with them, keep them updated, and keep it organized? Because it's not one job is done and then the next job. Now you have a bunch of things kind of in mid-flight, and you're going to need to be able to handle that chaos. And so the needs have completely shifted, and I think we're going to keep going. I mean, supply chains will rebound, the job force will kind of rebound, and we'll find this kind of status, kind of new normal. But it has been whiplash. I mean, it's gone from one extreme to the other and back. And each one of them has brought kind of new phases of need.
Yeah, and I imagine just like you guys, there's tens of thousands of other software companies in particular that have gone remote. Small businesses many of them can't really go remote. They rely on foot traffic, people coming in the door. I would imagine e-commerce, the number of businesses that are selling things online has skyrocketed. I would imagine that if they could go remote, they do. So if it's like a design business, or it's something like I have a friend of mine in LA. She's running a gardening business where they do design and they do installations. So they have half the team is completely remote. Everyone used to be in LA, but now half the team is remote. So they can do a lot. They can work with a lot more people from all over the place. But that effect multiplied by millions of people is pretty, billions across the planet is pretty significant. And the problems that people have running small businesses are significantly different. Although if there's one part of the economy that is going to stay local, it seems like small businesses are going to be the one inherent in their name. But still, so much of it changes ongoing.
Yeah, no, and we pivoted. We spent a good chunk of our roadmap was really focused on, what I call the kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs for the small business. Money. Like no money, no software, no money, no employees, no raw materials, no rent, whatever, right? And so, whether it be deposits, we launched packages, so people could kind of sell packages and track, redemptions and things of that nature. We improved our invoices when we launched our own payment, Thrivepay, a little over a year ago now, at the end of October of 2020. And in there we included, ACH functionality and credit cards. We included the ability that business owners didn't have to worry about it. I send you an invoice and it's above a threshold. I only want to accept ACH for that. I want to accept bank transfer. We did that because that's what small businesses were doing already. They had a tolerance level. We put convenience fees in. We did convenience fees in a legal way that works kind of universally, as opposed to kind of passing through percentages and things that can get small businesses in trouble. And so we built all that into this product that we call Thrivepay, and then we kept going down that journey because we found out that we added products. You mentioned it. Suddenly now, you were coming into my store and you were buying it while you were there, and you were touching it, and there was all kinds of not allowed to do that anymore. And now, when you schedule your hair appointment, you can just buy the shampoo at the same time. It all goes on one bill, and I have it waiting for you. And it's just a little bit of a safer, different experience, and we were pretty quick to adapt to that. And it's interesting now. We're seeing some software companies who did really well, early on, and are already starting to come down because there was a flash moment where whatever solution they had were in need. We're pretty happy because through all those different changes of dynamic, we continue to solve the problems that they're facing. The problems may change, but our solution is holding up here through it all. So we're pretty pleased with that.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you, man. It's a really difficult challenge. You still make it sound way too easy to pivot this large company.
It's a lot of fun. It should sound fun when it should sound easy when it's fun.
Yeah.
It's rewarding.
What's been the hardest thing? What's been the thing where you're like, man, I messed up here, or should have done this different, or this was a royal pain in the ass? Anything that comes to mind that's a learning experience?
It's a good question. I think early on we weren't as specific and we weren't as focused on who our ideal customer was, and it was really anyone who said yes. And we're obviously not the only software player who has made that mistake. And the good news is that we learned a heck of a lot along the way. We learned who it's a fit for and who it's not. But in the process, it made some of our metrics look not exceptional. And we took a big period of time to really stabilize, improve our UI, improve our product, improve our onboarding, our service, and more importantly, having the discipline of who's our right customer and what's the right product and who do we want. And let's be honest with people, and who don't we want? And I think with all of that, not only do we gain more efficiency, we have happier employees, we have happier customers. And I think we have a better reputation in the marketplace because we tell people, we're not the right solution for you, and here's why. And we don't want to oversell you. And we think that builds trust. We want a brand built on trust and respect, and we think that's the way to go about it.
Mm. Well, it makes me feel like I've made much bigger mistakes than you in my life. But yeah, that's certainly a good one. Yeah, I think pricing is really hard too in SMBs. Like, what's the right pricing model? You mentioned the moving to 6 months, which I think is smart, but there's always a balance there. One thing I remember we would mess up is we spent way too much doing in-person sales. We thought that small businesses, it was really difficult to get in touch with these people. And we thought we would just hire a team of people to do in-person sales. So we hired a couple people, and they would just literally march the streets and go in and get rejected. And I did it initially, and then we hired other people to do it. And it was like, oh man, it was painful. It was painful, and it didn't work. So we ended up working with accountants, like QuickBooks people that would do the accountants.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So that ended up being more successful, which is it's a good life lesson to work smarter, not harder.
Listen, there's a lot of different sales channels and motions and selling motions. We built an entire kind of online engine marketing. There's a time they want a demo. There's a time they want a free trial. There's a time they want to talk to someone who's local. And the marketing responsibility is to make sure we understand their intent and get those things to the right people. And we serve the market the way the market wants to be served.
Mm. Cool, man. Well, Ryan, congrats on all your progress, man. Hope I didn't knock you too hard with some questions and throw you with metaverse and
great.
crypto.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. It's great. It's this is the stuff that's hanging on around us, and I think hopefully it was we had a good, insightful conversation. I really appreciate your time.
All right, brother. Take care.